Hi you guys, welcome to Arty Field Trips. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're not going to go outside on a field trip, we're just going to chill together and draw. I'm going to use a soft voice. We're just going to relax and maybe process some feelings, talk about stress. I know some of my favorite YouTube videos of other artists are when they are sharing with the world how they feel and how they process their lives, and so I would like to give back to that community and do the same. A lot of reasons why I make art is for therapy, and a lot of reasons why I watch YouTube videos about art is for therapy as well, even though legally speaking none of us are actual art therapists or psychotherapists. So if you feel like you need therapy, don't be ashamed, reach out, get some professional therapy. But we can provide some peer support for each other. We can talk about our lives here on YouTube through sort of a friendship capacity instead of a professional capacity, because we need all of those things. So today I'm going to be drawing some fruit and filling a sketchbook page. One of my favorite fruits is the nectarine, so I'm going to be drawing a nectarine, and you can barely see in the corner of the page a little sticker, and that is the fruit sticker that came on this nectarine that I'm drawing right now. And one of my favorite sketchbook ideas is to take fruit stickers off the fruit that I'm eating and putting it on a page and then draw that fruit. It's a great way to make art when you're out and about. I live in a big city and I'm out and walking around all the time, so I often stop into grocery stores and buy healthy snacks like pieces of fruit or little veggie trays or whatever, and they make great things to sit down and draw if you're taking a break or hanging out in a park or something like that. Today I'll be using acrylic markers, but first I'm going to sketch out a map with the pencil. And my personal style with art is a little bit of a blend of classical skills along with more graphic elements. So you'll see at the end I'm going to draw on top of it with a micron pen to add the details. So my point here at the beginning is it's okay with me if these pencil lines show through sometimes, because that adds to the modern art kind of illustrative effect that I'm going for. If I was going for straight up realism, then I probably would be using just dramatically different supplies here. I'm also going to be using some really affordable dupes of acrylic markers. They're not actually Ardex or Posca or anything like that. They were the cheapest ones I could find on Amazon that had as many colors as I could get. And so, they don't lend themselves to realism very well either, but they're really great for something kind of pop arty. There's a surprising amount of colors. They blend surprisingly well for how cheap they are. I probably won't be recommending the brand later on in the video because a lot of them came dried out, and I'm just not super happy with the quality, but while I have them, they're good to use. So it looks like I've gotten my pencil part done, so now I'm gonna think about what colors I want to use first. Usually with an acrylic painting and using acrylic paint markers, you kind of have to treat them like acrylic paint, sort of at the same time that you treat them as a transparent medium, because they have qualities of acrylic paint, but they also have transparent qualities as well. So I'm gonna start out by mapping my lighter colors, or my lightest color, and then I'm gonna go to a dark to light strategy, but I just want to get where the light parts are gonna be that I don't want to layer on top of other colors, because acrylic paint markers are really good about layering on top of other colors, but you still get a thicker, kind of more muddy color when you do that. And so for these really bright yellows on this nectarine, I just want to have pure yellows, so I'm gonna get those down first, and then I'm gonna switch to more of a dark to light philosophy with this painting. Once you learn how to work from dark to light or from light to dark with any kind of painting medium, you can decide how you want to manipulate those strategies. It's not always one or the other. Sometimes you can do both. Like in my previous video about painting a cupcake, you can see that a lot of times in that video I'll start with a middle tone and then work the shadows and then work up to the highlights. And that's one way you can do it too, especially with acrylic paint that can be both opaque and transparent. Things like oil paint are just straight up opaque mediums, so you have to think differently with them. But once you learn the rules, you can break the rules. And then one thing that I did a while ago now that really changed the way I paint is I went to a workshop with my favorite painter named Natalia Fabia, and I had some big takeaways that were actually pretty simple, but they were life-changing for me. And one of them was to think about values first before you think about color. And the first layer of any kind of painting is a map of all the values. And a value is just how intense or dark or light a color is on the page. Because if you have a good foundation of the values underneath all your colors and details, then it's going to be much more dimensional and seem more weighty and present to the human eye that way. So lately in my life, I've been dealing with a lot of transition. I would so much rather be in a creative career, but I've been working in the education fields to pay bills, and that's kind of the stress that I was talking about that I'm dealing with. I'm not a licensed teacher yet, so I don't get paid over the summer, so I was laid off. And on one hand, it gave me time to do some art and to kind of come up with a plan for the next year of my life, but on the other hand, it was stressful to try to come up with my rent and things like that. And we need a creative outlet so all of that stuff doesn't overwhelm us. And that's what drawing and keeping a sketchbook is good for. Like, I'm personally not the best at sitting down and writing down my feelings all the time. I can get really upset and have anxiety and things like that and not know how to put that into words, but I can put that into scribbles and doodles and drawings, and that's what makes me feel better. This particular sketchbook that I'm drawing in right now, you'll see that in pretty soon I'll be doing a sketchbook tour of it, and it's a really big sketchbook. It's taken me a really long time to finish it, but I've also found it and lost it over years of my life, and when I look through it, it's kind of cool because it shows this journey, and it does show how I deal with things like stress. I have this kind of doodle thing that I do that I call a stress map, and I kind of draw and use words on the page, and it's just kind of like a brain dump when I don't know what else to do with my life. And I'd like to make a video about those later too. And it's just, I think transitions are hard for everyone, and I'm just going through a lot of transition, and it feels like it feels like I never get there. It feels like I'm always transitioning to something and I'm never there. Like this YouTube channel, I've always really dreamed of having a functioning YouTube channel that helps me not only to make a living, but helps me to express myself into the world and not just be, a random automaton walking through life for no reason. And that's the same reason why I also make music. And that's another thing. I don't know if any of you make music, but music is, especially if you're trying to have any kind of commercial success or even a commercially viable product, it is intense making music. It's just involves so much more than you think when you first get started. And that is just one process with the album that I made that seems to always be in transition. Like I really hope that I can finally get it out into the world one day. And I don't have to be like, with that, I just want it out where people can hear it and where it's like like I said, a viable creative product. It doesn't have to be like something a whole bunch of people hear about or anything like that, but I would like it to be a functioning part of my life. And so kind of where I'm at as a human in my development is trying to get all these loose ends put together so that I can have the life that I want and I can have the community I want with people. I'm the happiest when I'm around creative people and people that take joy and excitement in making new things and trying out new colors, either on paper or in their outfits or whatever. And I just feel so out of my element when I'm stuck in this business casual world where like nobody can use colorful language and people don't really laugh that much, and when they do laugh, it's that fake like social laugh. And I come from sort of a punk rock creative rebellious background, so working in education is kind of hard because I think there's a lot of elements of that are valuable in education because you really can teach kids how to think for themselves. But at the same time, I would rather be the thing that kids find outside of school. I would rather be the song that the kid listens to when school is too stressful. I would rather be, the street art mural that they see that inspires them to do something besides fit in the box that society is trying to put them in. Whatever that is. Like I don't want my channel to get political or anything like that, so I'm not going to elaborate much on that, but I really feel like kids and all of us have so much more creativity and identity in us than society wants us to have, and we should push back whatever that identity is. We should push back and be ourselves as loudly and as colorfully as possible. And so those are kind of the existential issues that I'm dealing with right now. And then back to the drawing, as you guys can see, I've got some of those values in there. And at this point, while I was coloring it, I was like, this is giving me bad Ronald McDonald vibes. And it's at this point, I'm sure if you make art, you get to points where you just need to trust the process, because it always gets to this place where it looks like a hot mess before it starts to come together and it starts to start looking like the thing you're trying to put on the page. And I guess it's like my life that I was just talking about. This is like right here in the video where the nectarine just looks kind of messed up and like, Ronald McDonald puked on it or something. That's kind of where my life is right now. It's good. I'm building the foundation. I'm getting those colors in there to build up the final details. But it looks like a hot mess. So I have to trust it and keep building it instead of, tear out the page and throw it away and start over. I think that's why I haven't gotten some of those loose ends tied up, is because I always bail on something instead of keep building when it gets hard and when it gets to be a hot mess. And I just need to push through that hot mess phase, because that's an important phase through all of our development. Whether you're drawing a picture or growing up and going through puberty and going to high school, it doesn't matter how popular and cute you look to everyone else, you have a hot mess going on somewhere in there that you're trying to figure out. And so you just got to push through the hot mess. And that's something I'm telling myself. Like, I'm definitely not trying to preach to anybody that sees this video at all. I'm trying to figure out how to put together my own hot mess. And if you feel like a hot mess and this makes you feel less alone, then thank you, because I feel less alone if you feel less alone. And it's really hard because I live in Los Angeles, which I talked about living in a big city, and there's always really great things to do all the time. And so you have to focus. You can't let that stuff distract you, because I'll take a year and I will go to other people's art shows and all kinds of rock shows, and I will feel like I'm a part of the community because I'm being a consumer of that community. And it's all, when you see people and you see your favorite artists and you might get to talk to them and things like that, you feel like you're part of the community because they're dazzling you, they're giving you customer service, so you feel like you're a part of their community. But if you're not out there making art yourself or making music yourself and playing shows or showing people your art on any venue, whether it's YouTube or in a gallery or something like that, then you're just a customer. You're not actually a part of the community. And so that's another thing that I'm working on, is not getting distracted by all the bright, shiny things out there, because I want to make my own bright, shiny things so that I can really be a participant instead of just a spectator. And that's kind of like the same with my whole life. I deal with some depression and anxiety, and if I didn't have those things weighing me down, I would be a really colorful, social, flamboyant person. And, but a lot of times, not only do I find myself distracting myself through being a spectator and not a participant, I find myself going back and forth between, letting my anxiety and my introvert side get the best of me, and I get stuck in patterns of just going home and going to work and not feeding my creative side. And we have to nurture that side of ourselves. Everyone does. I have people that see my sketchbook and they're all like, oh, I can't draw a stick figure or whatever. And every person on earth has some kind of creative outlet. It might not be drawing. It might not be something that everyone else identifies as a creative hobby, but everyone has that part of themselves that recreates themselves over and over again, that creates their environment, that creates good friendships with the people around them. And we all have to nurture that part of ourselves, because that's the thing that's keeping us alive. So these are all the things. I feel like I just rambled a lot right now, but those are all the things that are kind of bothering me, and not just bothering me, but on the other side, they're all the ways I want to grow in life. Like, I want to get better at drawing and painting and things like that, but I also want to get better at using those skills to make my life more of a well-rounded life with, my mind, body, and spirit, not just some skills that allow me to write something on the page or whatever. I would like a more fulfilling life than just going to work and coming back home. So here, it's starting to look less like Ronald McDonald and more like a nectarine. And this is the place where we have most of the values put in there. So we're going to start adding details and start making those fields of color make sense. And this is another place where I've kind of played around with the light to dark thing, because I'm now putting on the darkest color. And a lot of that has to do with the patterning that was on the skin of the nectarine. It has all this like sort of spots and sort of mottled pattern of this darker, really rich, dark red burgundy color. And again, I really wish these paint markers had a different range, because I could have really played with that and, you know, just indulged myself in all the little tiny color variations and stuff like that. But maybe it's better that I had a limited palette so that I could just get it on the paper and just go with it instead of obsess over it too much. But as you can see, every little mark I make makes a difference. And when I get to the pen outline, when I start to make little marks, again, you can see it just takes really tiny changes to add dimension to the entire thing. It was hard to try to get all the marks going in the right direction of the curve of the nectarine. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. You know, I'm just starting out with being able to film and things like that, and I'm getting more things like little stands to put my phone on and things like that, but I film with my phone. I don't have a camera yet, and I'm just trying to do what I can with what I have, and I really appreciate it if you're still drawing with me. I know, like I said before, I like to watch other YouTubers, and I like to just open up my sketchbook and just vibe with them while they're drawing. I like to hear about other people's lives. It makes me feel like I'm not weird for going through the things that I go through. And as you can see, I'm adding more of that rich color on there. These are sort of backlit. You'll see when I put the highlights on, how the light source hits it. And I'm actually really impressed with how bright and juicy the yellows and oranges look together now that I have some of them blended together on the slice. So if you are watching, in the comments, you could tell me about what you're dealing with. Are you in school? Are you going through some transitions in your life? I know I'm going to online college, and the time management it has taken for me to learn how to actually turn in my classes, because it's completely self-paced, and that is a growing experience for me because I am not good at that at all. So I would like to be able to do what my university calls accelerate, which means you can take more classes than just one semester's worth if you finish. And I haven't been able to do that yet because like I said, I go after all the fun, shiny things to do, and I don't stay home and do my work. And so that's another thing I'm working on is time management. I'm trying to think of the long term. You know, when I complete my classes, my life is going to be so much better. And no matter what I decide to do, whether I want to go to more school, or even if I decide I don't want to work in education anymore, getting a degree is going to help so much more than not having one. Especially living in a city like Los Angeles, where making a living is a large challenge. I'll just put it that way. But to me, it's exciting. Like, I used to live in a much smaller place that didn't have museums or public transportation or trains that went out of town or anything like that. But, on any given day, I can get on public transportation and I can go to a town up the coast and enjoy myself and pack a picnic, and it doesn't even cost that much. Or I can go to a large number of museums and get inspiration for my art. I remember not too long ago, I was able to go to this one museum that's close to me that has Degas ballerina paintings. And when I was a kid, I fell in love with those paintings, and I lived nowhere near where I could see anything like that in person. So being able to see the Degas ballerinas in person was just like this bucket list kind of life-changing thing for me. And it was so helpful for me to see the thing that inspired me to make art when I was a really young child in person, because it reminded me of all the things that I hope and dream. And it reminded me that, your life, you can still take responsibility for your life and not abandon your hopes and dreams. And that's an important thing for me to remember, especially after the last few years of my life. I had a partner, and she had stage 4 cancer, and I took care of her for a really long time until she died. And something that happens when you do that is you forget how to take care of yourself, and you're in fight or flight mode so much, and in survival mode so much, just trying to get the person you love through this really hard life, changing, life-ending event, that you just get totally broken down in that process, because you in the end, you don't do anything for yourself at all. And that's been a couple of years ago now, but it's taken a couple of years to start rebuilding myself and to have the mental and emotional energy to do something like draw a nectarine in my sketchbook. And that brings me back to the journey that this sketchbook has brought me on. There's some doodles in here of one in particular. It's not a very impressive drawing, but it's a doodle of different types of cells in the human body. And I was doodling it because I was nervous, and we were waiting for lab results that day about, her cancer and about her future. And so this sketchbook is really a part of my life, and it tells all kinds of stories. There's pages that I doodled for stress relief on days that I lost jobs. There's pages where I was trying to actually improve my drawing, and those pages are more impressive than the stress related doodles, but no less meaningful. So it'll be really nice to be able to do that sketchbook tour finally. I have a few more pages that I have to fill before I do the sketchbook tour. I'm probably going to do an ideas to fill your sketchbook video in the next week or two. I have a few weeks before I go back to work for the school system, so I'm trying to get a lot of videos done and a lot of art done during that time. So here you see that I have gotten all the values done, and it's come a long way from Ronald McDonald, right? You can see the roundness. It almost feels like you could grab the nectarine off the page. You can see all the different color variations in the skin. And so I'm going to add some lines with the micron pen like I had mentioned before. And if I wasn't going to do that, I wouldn't stop at this point. There still needs to be some darker shadows if I was still just working with paint. I would probably put more shadows where the little crease in the nectarine is on the side that form the two lobes of the nectarine, and I would definitely add more shading to where the stem is at, so it actually looks like it goes down into the nectarine. But with the pen, I can add these kind of cartoonish accent lines, and it gives it a different style, which I really like this style. While I finish up, I just want to thank you guys for joining me today on this video. I talked a lot about my life, and if you stayed this long and listened, and if you got anything out of that or felt less lonely by that, I deeply appreciate you. If you just stayed to see how the nectarine was going to come out, I deeply appreciate you too. I have been trying to improve my ability to draw and paint things like this, and I'm actually pretty stoked about how this turned out given the materials that I had at the time. And my slogan for this channel is going to be "Art is everywhere, let's go find it." So I really hope that if you love art and you love making a sketchbook, and that it helps you get out into the world, because art of all kinds, art, music, even fashion design, those things are my gateway to the world. If I didn't have those things, I wouldn't know how to relate to the world at all. And I think we all have those things. I bet mathematicians, that their gateway to the world is understanding math and how the world works on a mathematical, construct, which that unfortunately is not my way of understanding the world. But, we all have that gateway, and we have to celebrate that gateway. That's the thing that makes us want to engage with life, whether that's art for you, or like I said, math for mathematicians, or some people. I work with a lot of people that the idea of being an educator is their way of understanding the world and connecting with the world. What is your way of connecting with the world? I know that videos like this one done by other people have helped me connect with the world a lot too. So I think we're getting to where it's almost done, and you can see how every little teeny line I've made with that pen has added dimension. And this is about the finished product here. And there's my nectarine. Thank you so much if you stayed this long. This has been Arty Field Trips. Please